Salt of the Earth Farm Stories is proudly brought to you by Grig Media. Step into the world of farmers from diverse backgrounds across Australia. Through intimate interviews, host Darren Grigg delves into farming practices, traditions, and the challenges farmers face in nurturing the land.
We're supposed to be tough. That's what farming is. We're resilient people. That's what we're famous for. So letting your guard down and saying, look, I'm really not coping all that well is hard.
This week, we're joined by Judy Brewer, a passionate advocate for mental health and well-being. Judy is leading an incredible initiative at the Farm Mudgegonga, a groundbreaking social farm designed to help people reconnect, heal, and feel better through nature. She calls it a natural health prescription, and it's changing lives. We hear about the emotional challenges facing our farmers, especially during times like the current drought. Judy shares powerful insights into the deep bond between farmers and their animals, and how that can sometimes come with its own emotional toll. Plus, Judy takes on a few off-the-wall questions with warmth and humour.
Judy, you were kind enough to be our first guest on Salt of the Earth Farm Stories, and I felt that after 52 episodes, 7,000 listens just over, and 12 months on, it was timely that we caught up with you again. Good afternoon, Judy.
Hello, Darren.
Thank you so much, Judy, for your time again this afternoon. Firstly, how are you?
Oh, fantastic. Always. Living in the best place on earth, doing what I want to do. How could you not be fantastic? Yeah. Oh, no, there's another way I could be fantastic. It could rain. If it rained, I'd be even more fantastic.
Yeah.
But enough of that. Let's stay positive.
Judy, do you feel like the last 12 months in particular has been a bit of a whirlwind tour of life?
Well, I don't know about the last 12. In a strange way, the last 12 months has been a whirlwind, but a calm one. Is that such a thing? I'm not sure. My life's been a bit of a whirlwind. I've done a lot of strange things in my life and done things I'd never expect to have done. And now I'm actually doing the thing I really want to do. So even though it's busy, and that's a terrible word because, it sounds like you don't want to be busy, whereas our busy is a happy busy. We work hard, we do lots of stuff, every day is an adventure. It is a whirlwind and we never get to the end of the to-do list, but it's a good one.
But hasn't things developed and grown in the last 12 months?
Look, sitting here and looking around, it's still unrecognisable from 12 months ago, which was unrecognisable from 12 months before. But this thing is coming together now and it's beautiful to watch. I'd like to say we're nearly finished, but I also know in my heart we'll never be finished and that there'll always be something more to do. But yeah, it's a pretty magic place already.
So can you just remind our listeners what's happening here at the Farm Mudgegonga?
So a couple of years ago, we decided to, when I found myself here on my own, largely on this beautiful property, a property that had been in my family for 150 years. And my husband had passed away, my kids had left home, and I had the privilege of waking up every morning to the mountains and the animals and the nature and the birds and the trees that you can hear rustling in the background now as the wind blows up, and thinking it's just too beautiful not to share. And I wanted to share it in a way that other people could get that sense of calm and joy that I get out of both farming and living on such a beautiful part of the world in northeast Victoria and engaging every day with nature as we do. So this has just been this development of finding a way without just saying, open the gates, come in whenever you want, do what you want, having a little bit of control as to who comes and what they do, and then letting it develop in its own way, so as it is. So yeah, we started calling it a care farm. We now call it a social farm. By the time you talk to me in 12 months' time, it might be called something else. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, I hope it's a good place still in 12 months' time and for many years after that.
I have heard you describe it as a natural health prescription.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the natural health prescription for me. I have had that prescription in my life at times when I haven't been on the farm and things haven't been going well. and I've been able to come back to the farm and ground myself here and get my energy again and get my perspective again on what I want to be doing with my life, and just feel that sense of being a part of something bigger than yourself, part of nature, part of the universe, having the responsibility you have as a human being, that species that has so much power over nature. And it is the place to come to just, reevaluate, I think, your life. For me, that's what it's been, a natural health prescription. And I think for a lot of other people now, they're seeing it that way. It might not be that for everyone, but for someone that it benefits, I'd like to make it available.
I've heard from various people after they leave here, they say they always go away feeling better than when they got here.
And that's pretty much our aim. It's not a complicated aim. It's not, it's not rocket science, as I've probably said many times. It's simply knowing that power of nature and animals and doing things with your hands and sometimes doing physical work to make you feel better, just to get your body back into balance and, relieve some of that stress that, unfortunately life in 2025 brings. The only downside for me is every time I now go to town, whether that town be, Myrtleford or Wodonga or Melbourne or bigger, I get overwhelmed now because the peace out here is so beautiful that it's very, very hard to put yourself back into those noisy, stressful, busy situations, which most people find, by far the vast majority of Australians have to live in that environment. So again, the gratitude for me having the chance to not live in that environment, it's very real and front of mind.
And these people who do need to feel better, these could be people with perhaps aged autism or aged care or someone that just needs some peace and tranquility.
Darren, it can be anyone really. And I think when I started, I had this sort of grouping in mind of people that might need that time out on a farm, or they might need to be part of a different community. But to be honest, everyone needs to be part of a community. And if this is your thing, whether you are from one of the groups that traditionally care farms are built for, and that is, as you say, people with disabilities, older people with mental health issues, or have had a difficult home situation, whatever, where they can get away for a day, well, yeah, of course that works. But the funny thing for us is that pretty much, I would hesitate to say, even the tradies that come here to do the work, hopefully go home a bit happier than they came. So I hope that the magic works on everyone, and you don't have to belong to any one group to experience the care farm, social farm, or the value of being with nature.
Absolutely. And we're sitting here in the veranda of the farm centre, and we're looking at a sensory wall and a potting shed, a chook shed, a duck house, a duck pond. It's enormous. There's little meandering walks and sitting spots, and people for just to rest. And if they want to come out here and do nothing, that's okay.
It's absolutely okay. And it's really important to say that, because I think it scares people to think, oh gosh, I'm going out there for the day, they're going to put a shovel in my hand and think I'm going to dig a well. Well, no, there's lots of things you can do if you want to, but if you don't want to do those things, literally sitting here where we are, watching the trees rustle in the breeze, the ducks on the dam, things are going on around you, but you can find a quiet place, and trying to develop those quiet places has been a really important priority for us. But more than that, making them accessible to everyone is the priority. So making every part of the farm accessible for mobility scooters, wheelchairs, slow walkers, that's been really central to our dream.
What do you think's changed the most since we last chatted 12 months ago?
I think the business plan has changed the most, because we don't really have one anymore, which is a bit sad.
Well, maybe you've ticked all the boxes there.
No, we had a business plan. It was a very good one, but we're sort of not implementing it at the moment. We've gone very, very organic in every layer, not just organic vegetables and pasture and food, but organic in how the place is developed, being very, very flexible as to who comes, and having a much looser criteria around who might benefit from it. So in terms of making money out of the farm, that was never a priority. In terms of finding a way to keep it going so that we can make it available to more people, well, that's now becoming quite a challenge, and I probably will need a business plan again one day soon.
I love the way they said that it's developed organically. What do you think stayed the same in the best possible way?
The people, the people who
Mm.
are helping me build this dream have stayed the same. They've been,
We've got a little bit older.
I think we've all got a bit older and a bit wiser. No, less hair. I'm not talking about anyone. No, grayer hair. Might be talking about someone. I don't. Look. I've been incredibly lucky that, having that belief, and some people think it's a weird belief in the universe and the whole nature that the right people come into your life at the right time. And sometimes we haven't had a plan for how we're going to do things, and then someone will donate something towards the cause, as something we need, or they may donate their time or a skill set, or simply those right people have stayed with us. Being, Dave has been here right from the start. You, Darren, who come and go when you get the time, and Leanne, and members of our family, and the wonderful Mick, who's been doing so much of the building work in between doing his other work. We've had a really wonderful team that I just don't know where they fell out of the sky from, but I'm just very grateful they did.
I think that's all because of you, actually, Judy, the team and the way it's come about. Now, some of the developments here, you wanted to use as much of the materials off the farm as possible, didn't you? Like, I'm looking at the different rock retaining walls.
Yeah. Now,
They're
when you
off the
say
farm.
off the farm, I suddenly thought you meant off
Sorry,
the farm, but
from
actually
the
meant
farm.
on the farm. But that's right. When you say what's changed the most over the last 12 months, I think one of the things I'm most excited about is how much of the farm resourcing that just gets changed around. So it's sort of become a closed system on the farm. We always had some closed systems. For example, we made our own soil by using the, chicken and cow manure and our straw, and create our compost with all our, food scraps and vegetable waste and cuttings. So we've been able to do things like that. So there's this little closed system of chooks, compost, veggies, chooks, compost, veggies, chooks, compost, veggies, and it just goes round and round and round. We don't have to bring anything in. So that's been lovely, but we're now sort of gone bigger than that, I think, where we're using rock from the farm, gravel from the farm, which we spin in the wonderful spinner, and it creates rocks that we make our retaining walls out of, fill our gabion baskets, and then the gravel that we can use to make our pathways more secure, and lots of different things. I'm looking here at the tree that came in yesterday. So any old trees that fall down on the farm, we find a spot for them to come in. We've got the old bushfire trees that were burnt in Black Saturday. They've come in and are creating habitat in the dam for aquatic life. I said yesterday we brought a lovely log in that's now a barrier around a tree that we put in today. Instead of building a retaining wall or something artificial, there's just a very big old dead tree. Our car park bays are, again, timber that was killed in the Black Saturday fire that's now very dry, and we've now brought it in to give it a new life as our car park barriers, so people don't drive off the end of the car park after a big day or before a big day. And we're using so much material from the farm in a way that stays on the farm. And even the buildings that you spoke about before, the old laundry wash house from the old house has been repurposed into the duck house. My dad's old 60-year-old tin garage that was the first thing he put up after the 1968 fire when we lost all our outbuildings. It's now the chook shed repurposed, and it is the best chook shed I'll say in northeast Victoria. Different things. The timber on the potting shed, again, is from a neighbour's forest that was destroyed in Black Saturday. So being able to find local things that we repurpose and give them new life is just, for me, a really beautiful part of what we're doing.
Are there any quirky additions or surprises you've added recently?
Where will I start? Quirky, that's another thing that's changed, I think, in the last 12 months. I don't know whether this comes with age, but you start to think, oh, why not? Let's just do it. Someone will have some idea they think's a joke, and then after an hour or two we go, well, we could really do that, couldn't we? And I think one of those jokes was the duck house. It was quite a funny thing. We were putting the duck house up on the side of the dam. We wanted the ducks to have access to the dam.
Which was the old wash house.
And it was the old wash house, and it has the window from the old bathroom of the old house in there, and the other window could well be from one that was donated from your son, I
That's
think,
right,
when he
yeah.
was stripping down a house in
Yeah,
town.
exactly, yeah.
So there's lots of recycled bits to the duck house. And we thought, well, how are the ducks going to get in the dam? And the way it was positioned, the wall that faced the dam, I said, it would be really nice if we let them out that wall rather than round the other side. So Mick was here, and he was sort of talking about what sort of door to have, and it was going to be just a small door. And then suddenly it just occurred to me, I said, well, could we have actually like a drawbridge over the moat and have like put down the bridge every day for the ducks to come out?
Yeah, you've got to see it to believe it,
And
really.
you do have to see it to believe it. It's exactly that. It is like, so the duck house has a moat where the ducks swim, and we got an old tree from down the creek, and Mick cut it down as a drawbridge walk, and then put the beautiful winder that even makes the drawbridge sound tick 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 as you put it down every morning and take it back up in the afternoon. And
they waddle down in the morning,
and they waddle out because they can't wait to get out that drawbridge. They're never as keen to go back in, but they're good to go out. So there's only one secret to the drawbridge, and that is if you take it off its clicking bit, it can knock you flat because it does spin.
Okay.
In case you hadn't
No,
just never take it off its bearings, or the handle will knock you in the head and knock you out. But
Right.
so Quirky doesn't cover the drawbridge on the duck house. It's so out there, but it's a lot of fun, and people love having the chance to put it down in the morning.
Well, talking quirky additions, how important is storytelling areas?
I just think storytelling is important, full stop. And I would say that because I like storytelling. So, but storytelling, again, the older I get, the more I realise in our culture how it's not accepted as much in Australian culture, I think, as we need it to be, because in many cultures, storytelling is the basis of how we pass on knowledge. You know, not everyone wants to reading books or even audio books or whatever now is less. People want this instant gratification of quick things, but to see someone telling a story and have people enraptured in that story, sitting around them, listening to someone who either has a story that you can hardly believe or some wisdom to impart, particularly in a farming sense, like it is so powerful. And again, it's something our Indigenous culture is built on storytelling and not that written word. Many cultures around the world value storytelling, and I think farmers value storytelling, so it's something we can do because our stories are pretty wild generally, and it's very special. So if we've got places around the farm where people can sit and someone can tell a story.
And I love that here. I'm just looking at the posts we put in yesterday, and they're 100+ years old, possibly from the old piggery. And that's a story for people to imagine how that might have been.
It's like every post has a story in this place, but it's true. Everything has a story because, again, 150 years of European settlement, but, thousands of years of Indigenous settlement. And there's many, many layers on this farm of things that have gone before. So even when we're out the paddock now, we'll be running the harrows over it, and it'll turn up a horseshoe, or right out in the middle of nowhere. It'll turn up a piece of iron, and you bring it back and you go, what was this? What part of someone, and you can picture someone 100 years ago out there with a machine that this piece has fallen off and they've never found it before, but I've found it, unfortunately, and it's clogged up the cedar. But, there is already layers, and I had the most wonderful experience, and I would love to have more of these experiences with the Dadaroa people, or the uncles who came out to talk to me about the history, Indigenous history of this farm, and could straight away just dig down and find artifacts from thousands of years ago that are just sitting there under because this was a gathering place. The mountains, the creek was always a gathering place for different tribes over many years. So our farm has that story, and we don't tell it enough. And everyone's farm has a story, but I don't think we value it enough.
And just look at the steps over there that Dave's made. They were rocks out of the old dairy, is that right?
That's right. And you said the posts and the rocks. So one of the things when I'm here, I picture, because I know it was here before my time, is all those outbuildings that we had, all the things have been destroyed, unfortunately, by fire, 39, 68 and Black Saturday, where the farm has been lost so much of its infrastructure. And 68 fire took out the stables, the dairy, the piggery, they were all around the house. So we're really quite close in. I was, very young. In fact, I should say I wasn't born, but I was just born. I have a very vague memory of this farm having all those buildings. Mum says there was something like 20 outbuildings at that time, because it was a central farm to a number of other farms. By that stage, the Piazza family had bought and acquired many other farms in the area, but this was always the home property. So there was the Clydesdales were being bred here for the other farms. So it was sort of a central point. And of course, the girls had this amazing dairy, one of the first dairies in this area, a dairy that started the butter factory at Myrtleford. Again, my great-grandfather was instrumental in that. This dairy that operated every day but had no refrigeration, if you can imagine that. The dairy was there very much until that fire, and the remains of it are still there. But they used to walk the cows up over this rock pathway. So again, dairies get very mucky, and this is usually, unlike this year, but usually quite a high rainfall area. So in winter, the cattle would have to come up through the mud. So they'd brought rock up and rocked a huge pathway, probably 500 metres into the dairy, so the cattle could get in clean. Again, you were hand milking. You didn't want the cows you didn't have the beautiful hoses and squirty stuff that you can use now to keep the udders clean. You're trying to keep the cows clean, to hand milk these cows. So they had this beautiful rock pathway in, and of course we're not dairying anymore. So we've been able to use those rocks again and repurpose them around the farm for retaining walls. And the stairs you talk about are those rocks, and there's a couple of rock walls, and we've got another one to do shortly. And the other place the rocks was the old house, which was built on rock foundations. Very unusual. So it was literally built on rocks with nothing really holding them together except the incredible artistry of the rock masons or the family that did it.
And they haven't moved an inch.
And they haven't moved in 150 years. When I look at the rocks on the stairs, and you just think about how they even moved them. We moved them with an excavator and a truck, and we pretty much only got one rock on at a time. Each one would weigh over a ton. I don't know how they moved them. No excavator. It would have just been physical, lifting them up and bringing them up from the creek, which is probably 1 kilometre away, and at times cutting them to shape without, axle, angle grinders and all the things that we have. So
hard to fathom.
Constantly being reminded about those layers of history that have happened before us, and then being able to talk about that storytelling. I mean, I won't be here much longer, a few years maybe, hopefully. But I was
30 or 40 in you at least.
I don't know. Mum might be turning 95 this year, but her stories, I was going to say, she's one of the greatest storytellers of all time, but I think her stories are getting a little bit more colourful as the years go on, and they seem to be adding a few pieces that weren't there a few years ago.
She makes a good episode.
She does. She loves to tell stories. But I was lucky enough to, live with my grandmother until Grandma was 11, so again she was born here, one of the original De Piazza family, and I now cast my mind back to some of her stories, which as a child I never realised how important they were. And again, my dad passing away prematurely, his stories, and I think, well, Dad used to say this, but I can't ask him now the rest of that story, or was it like that, or was that dingo that Uncle Bert caught? What was he like? What did they do with him then? I've never asked the next question. So it's really important to ask those questions now for those who are here and have that oral history.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Judy, we all know that you love animals. And can you list just a few of the random animals that you have here on the farm? And this is not including Dave and myself.
You're the most random. Come on.
We've got a donkey.
We're all animals in this world. We definitely have a donkey. We have a few. We have the domestic animals and the feral animals and the native animals. And you're not any of those, I don't think, Darren. Don't worry. But yeah, definitely. I'm looking out at Donkey Jacob. He's waiting for his carrot, which will come before I put the chooks in tonight. The chooks are the chooks, the ducks, the guinea fowl.
It's not just chooks. There's random breeds of chooks.
And they are random breeds of chooks. We have the naked neck chooks. Yep. We have the frizzles that are like some great big puff ball. We have all sorts of different varieties of colours of bantam, and started with ISA browns, but they've all crossbred a little bit because I think diversity is the key to everything. We've got green laying eggs. I'd like to get some blue laying eggs, but when you see the dozen eggs that come out of the shed, they're all different colours, all different speckles, all different sizes. So diversity is the key in there. And of course, there's the cows. We've got a couple of beautiful ex-racehorses roaming around, keeping us busy. We've got some sheep, and they're a motley crew as well. And of course, there's the dogs, beautiful. There's sort of 4 resident dogs. They're all girls.
Who would you say runs the show among the animals?
It's a really good question.
Scruff, Ariane, Jacob?
Well, I think Jacob the donkey thinks he runs the show, but do you know who really runs the show? Henny Penny.
Oh, really?
Henny Penny, chief #1 hen. She is the boss hen. She runs the poultry. No one goes near Henny Penny. Henny Penny is the first in at night. No one feeds before she feeds. She is the queen of the chook shed. Right. She even has her own little space to sleep in that the others aren't allowed to sleep in, and that's the laying, the nests that have a little curtain at the front, so they come in and they lay their eggs. But at night she gets to sleep there. No one else does. She's the boss, Nothing happens in this place without Henny Penny being in charge. And people will probably think I'm joking, but I'm not. She is honestly the toughest hen. She's a 9-year-old hen. Never cross a 9-year-old hen, I think.
What's the spirit or heartbeat of the farm?
It's interesting to talk about a spirit of the farm. The farm has its spirits more than it being. It is a very powerful thing to me. And again, I don't want to get into the point where people think, oh, that woman is really loopy. But there is a sense of spirits on this place, whether it's the people that have been here before, the animals that have been here before. There's a sense of being in a place where there's been a lot of people before you, even though it's a very isolated little valley, dead-end valley. And when I look at the hills that surround the valley, there are parts of those hills no one's ever, white people, since I'm assuming, our Indigenous predecessors had actually walked most of the hills, but maybe not. Certainly in the last 150 years, there are parts of these hills that no one's been to. So you can still actually discover things. But there's a real sense of spirit. And again, our Indigenous culture locally means that we have rock art locally. We have sites where there's extraordinary artifacts, tools buried, parts of the hills that were considered spiritual and sacred. And in the same way, there are parts of this farm I feel very spiritual and are very sacred. I have a real sense of being part of something that is hard to understand and slightly more than the human nature can conceive, really. Wow. And that's okay.
That's
I like
special.
it.
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite place on the farm you like to go to?
Oh, I do, of course. Yeah, absolutely. And you know it, Darren. You know when I get on the Kubota and go down the creek, I haven't had a good day. Yeah. If you see me disappearing down the creek for a few hours, it's to get my sanity back. It's probably because someone has just needled me that little bit. Or maybe it's just life in general. But if I'm down that creek, and particularly in the area where we've done this regeneration project in the last 2 years, which is now just so accessible because we've controlled the weeds and the willows and made it and replanted native species. And you can already see the bees and the birds coming into those trees, and just loving this 2,000 native, different, not a monoculture, a very diverse set of trees. It's so magic. Not everyone feels this way about the farm.
Well, I worked down there for a couple of months last year, and I know what you're talking about.
It's, again, talk about spiritual. Being down the creek on your own for the day, not sure there's anything more spiritual than that. I'll probably be shot down in flames for that, but anyway, in my world, that's as spiritual as it gets. I can talk to the maker down there too. That's all right. I'm allowed to do that. The maker, whoever she is.
Good.
Good. I can do that.
Mother Nature?
It might be Mother Nature. Gaia, it might be whatever. Who knows? I said, I have a great belief humans are not very smart and we'll never really understand the world, but we think we do.
It's just absolutely enormous what you've done here, Judy. Do you have a moment where or a time when you stand back and you go, wow, we built this?
Well, we didn't build it. That's the truth, Darren. or maybe it built us. Can I just,
Right.
it
Yeah.
all we did was, I think, uncover it. It was there, and parts of it had been covered up, and we haven't uncovered it anything like as much as we're going to, because there's so much more to discover. I was born in this place, and I still think of all the times I just didn't even see things going on beneath my feet, in the sky, on the water. I still can't name the creatures that live in the water. People will say to me, "Oh, what's that bird?" And I know a lot of birds, but I still don't know them all, and I can never tell them. I have to go and put my bird app on to a recorder. The frogs, I can hear them, but I can't identify one from the other. More than perhaps the most basic species. My new interest has been mushrooms. I'm trying to identify fungi and mushrooms. And look, I could only name probably on one hand, but there's probably thousands, might even be more than that, of types that grow on our farm. So I didn't build any of that. Nature built that. And all I'm doing is trying to let people experience what is here and uncovering the bits we've covered up.
Well, the immediate 10 acres or so around the house has been huge, and I'd like to think maybe we're nearly there, but then we're on stage, 59 out the front at the moment? What's happening out there?
We sure are. We've just started a really big stage of the immediate area around the house, which is going to be an outdoor space. Originally, it was going to have perhaps an outdoor bowls or something like that, but we've now decided, because we're so on song, on target, I don't know, with the in crowd, whatever we are, we're going to have a pickleball court. And as soon as I say that to people, their face lights up and they go, "Pickleball, wow!" And this is coming from someone who's never played pickleball in their life, and I'm not sure I've even seen a pickleball court. But today we have started building the pickleball court, and we hope it's just another thing people can do when they come out. There's something sort of for everyone. You talked about the sensory wall before. We're trying to build places where someone might be really keen to spend time in a quiet sensory wall, feeling all the different plants, different smells, different touch, different, but other people might be really keen to do something and run off a bit of energy, or play a game with other people that are here. So providing this outdoor space, which will be pickleball, it can then double as lawn bowls or finska or whatever we want it to be. There'll be a lovely space, and there'll be some shade and seats around that, so people can, like me, who I'm not so sure I'm going to be playing the pickleball, but I'm very keen to sit there and watch others do it.
Well, I can't see you sitting down, but you'll be out there somewhere.
I think I'm looking forward to learning how to play it.
Out there in this new stage too, there'll be lots of fruit trees, a water feature of some sort.
Yeah, we're just plotting that little section now. It's quite a large section. It's a couple of acres, and it will have berries, nuts, what I call my weird fruits. So part of what we've been doing this year has been starting the evaluating the processing of some of the product. So we've been growing lots and lots of product, but we're also now transforming it into, jams and pickles and preserves and other ways, drying out, garlic and chilies and things that we can keep going for longer, so that we don't just have the seasonal fresh produce. And again, you talked about what's something quirky. Well, the quirkier the fruit, the better, or the quirkier the vegetables. Most of our vegetables, like the carrots, started being orange, but now they're purple. The kale started being green, but now it's scarlet. Like if we can find a strange variety, like we're growing broccoli, but now it's got to be Romanesco broccoli, which is like the really funny shaped one, or the heart lettuces. We just like to do it that little bit differently.
Well, even your lettuce the other day had a bit of a bite to it.
It has a bite, yeah. We like to have something that's just that little bit different, so people go, "Oh, I've never had that before," but you probably have, but you just haven't had that variety of it. So the vegetables are like that, and the fruit and the citrus the same. So we're planting, pomegranates and quinces and locusts and guavas and different fruits that people might not be as familiar with, but it gives them a chance to try something different. And of course, it's good for nature to have that amount for the beneficial pollinators to have different types of things. And it's amazing what we'll grow. I laugh. We haven't talked about climate change, but we're living through this period of extraordinary climate and extraordinary changes in our weather patterns and extremes of weather. But I even have a banana tree growing at the moment. So to think I could grow bananas in Mudgegonga would be crazy, but who knows what we can
Yeah.
grow with this summer that's in winter. Yeah.
There was a special event last year in August. Can you tell me about that?
Well, as you know, I had to turn 30 at some point,
Yes,
and
twice.
yeah, I've turned it twice, so doubled up, and I thought it was a good chance just to open the doors and show the family and the neighbours what we were doing. It was a really great time for a very stressful time, because I think until then we'd felt that, you know, only a few people had been here and people had been seeing all the activity happening and wondering what on earth we were doing. So it was lovely to be able to welcome everyone in for a weekend, really. It was a lot of people camped for the weekend, and we had a day on the Saturday and a party down at the hall at night and a recovery on the Sunday. So it was a big weekend and a great one. And we, you know, I think we had about 400 people in the end come through that day to one or other event, and there was just good feedback. It was great to see, you know, their interest, and so we're planning another one. Why not, you know? Can't get enough of a good thing. The only difference this time, Darren, is that this time they're going to have to pay to get in the door. But not much.
Do you want to tell me about that one?
Well, we're looking at the end of November. There'll be a date claimer soon go out on the e-news and on the website and on the social media pages. And we're working on, probably, you can put it in your diary, and it'll probably be the last weekend in November, sometime around then, and another type of open day. But again, just to let people come and see, those that are not coming as co-farmers during the week, they can come and experience the farm, see what we're doing. We'll have food, we'll have drink, we'll have music, we'll have connection. We might have a pickleball court, you never know, but we'll have fun, I know that. And we've got a few special events on the day planned. And at the end, you know, hopefully again, builds a community. So we're working on that one. We've got about 6 months to go, and stay tuned.
So Judy, who can come here, or how do they find out more?
The best way, I suppose, Darren, because to be honest, turning up can't happen. We have insurance issues in terms of, you know, people that we don't know who is on the site and at the farm. We have biosecurity issues with the animals. So please don't just turn up. We do have that happen, and I can't, you know, I hate saying please don't come today, come another day. So the best thing is to go on the website, thefarmmudgegonga.com.au, and there's some frequently asked questions which tell you how to access. And it's basically, at the moment, you need to get in touch, preferably by email, and we'll find out what the circumstances are, how we can make your day great, when you can come, what you need to bring, what time. Some people come for a very short time, some people come for a whole day, sometimes it's a group, sometimes it's individuals, but we'll work it out.
And on the website, you can sign up to a newsletter?
Yes, well, since the last time we talked a year ago, I've been doing the newsletters each month, which has been quite challenging, but I'm starting to enjoy it. Well, I say that, it seems to be the end of the month and I haven't done it, and then I don't enjoy it. But the last 6 months e-news are on the website, and you can sign up for the free newsletter if you want to know what's going on on the farm. And another way is our Instagram page, which is our most recent addition to the social media. I'm not you know, part of this modern generation, Darren. I've had to learn how to do these
You're
things.
doing pretty good.
Instagram took me probably 2 years to get the courage to do my first post.
I love the random posts. It might be of ducks or chooks or plants.
Yeah. So if you want to see the animals and see the plants and hear a bit about what we're doing, again, the Farm Mudgegonga Instagram is the place to go. And it is random, because sometimes I get excited and do a couple of days in a row and then I forget about it for a while. But anyway, you'll get the picture when you log on.
And Judy, I just want to touch on the broader farm. You have around 150 poll Herefords, to which I think you know all the personalities, the tag numbers, or their markings. Is that right?
Yeah, well, they're the girls, they're the mums. So at different times a year we have double that, because they all have a calf. And of course then there's the boys, the bulls as well. And a couple of, one steer, Dino. I'd certainly know all the cows. Most of them were born on the farm, and they've spent their life on the farm. And of course they do each have their own, I shouldn't call it a personality, a cowanality, whatever it is. But they're great characters, and the girls are my great friends, because they are very consistently there every day, and needing to be fed, needing to be looked after, needing to be drenched, needing to be calved, mated, all those things that I play God with.
And tell me about this current climate, Judy. It's a tough time, not just for you, but for a lot of people.
Look, it's as tough as I can remember, and I said I've been here all my life, and we've had a couple of shocking droughts. The first year I came home on the farm, when I was 17, 18, 82 was 823 drought. I never thought I'd see another drought like that. You know, we ran out of water, cattle were starving, it was terrible. We're not quite there now, I think, because farming has become more sophisticated, and obviously I know more about farming these days, so we've been able to keep the cows in better condition. But there isn't a blade of grass. It's been a shocking season. There has been no rain this autumn. There was almost no rain for the whole of last year in the critical growing seasons. There was certainly no autumn, and there was a very poor spring, which came after 3 very wet years. So it's quite a shock to go from controlling water and erosion to living in dust, and that's what we are. And we are certainly not as badly off as many others, you know, South Australia, Western Victoria, and parts of the Riverina. It's as bad a drought as most people have seen. The old timers are saying, you know, they haven't seen one like this. It's every time the rain goes on that east coast or up to Queensland, it doesn't come inland. And, you know, we're into May, and as I said, we're still, the temperatures have been very high. We're still picking tomatoes and zucchini, and all the summer veggies are still being harvested. Eggplant, picked a load today. You know, capsicums, the things you're normally picking in January, February, they're still fruiting. The lawnmower hasn't been out for a very long time, and when I look out on that pasture, the seed we've put in is struggling or wilting. It's a grim season for farmers at the moment, and I don't think there's a lot of publicity about it. I don't know whether it's just not something the media are interested in, but people are doing it incredibly tough, and that has repercussions for all of us. It has enormous repercussions for families, for finances, not just this year, but for the next 5 years probably, or more. And of course it has an enormous mental health toll that we need to be very conscious of and start thinking about how we're going to support people.
Yes, and we know farmers love their animals, and this can come with a lot of stress if they start to get ill.
Well, we had the situation last year where we had some cows that just couldn't cope with the season. They had everything going for them, but they were heavily pregnant. They were getting pregnancy toxemias. They were, you know, their minerals were out of balance. We were nursing them, you know, hand nursing them many times a day to get them through, bringing on their calving, doing things, and some of them didn't make it, and that's just devastating. It's you know, each of these cows is you know, I love them a bit like I love my dogs or my chooks or anything else, you know. And that sounds crazy from a beef cattle producer, I know, but we haven't got time to go into the psychology of how you manage those two things in your brain at the same time. But I do love my cows, and seeing them doing it tough, you know, makes me do it tough. And we all do. And for those, when I go around now, those that are calving at the moment, we're lucky, we're spring calving. Let's hope it's better by then. But those who are going at the end of autumn calving, you know, their cows are really struggling to maintain condition and rear their calves. Often you have to take the calves off the cows, as we weaned our calves early. There's a lot of things you have to do to keep your cows alive.
Is this a time we should be checking on our local farmers?
We absolutely should be checking on anyone, you know, that's farming at the moment. And particularly in those areas where they've really not seen rain. I saw a photo on someone's page this morning in South Australia that had 5 millimetres of rain for the year. We're in May. You know, it's just red dust.
Yeah.
You know, around our area, listen to those cockatoos.
Are they telling us it's going to rain?
Oh, I hope so, but I think they're just telling it's dry wind. There's dust. Most of us are out of house water now. Very rare thing in Mudgegonga to be out of water, because it's a very wet part of the world usually. And there's usually, you know, great spring water, and as I said, we had 3 very wet years, so we were able to capture a lot of water, store a lot of water, but it's all gone now. It's just dramatically dry and hot, and yet the nights are getting cold, so it's all those, you know, tick tick tick, worst combination for nutrition for cattle. Oh, not just cattle, sheep, horses, animals of any sort, humans.
Like you said before, it was a tough autumn, winter last year. Does that mean we build any resilience?
The funny thing about farming is, you know, the biggest factor in farming, the biggest thing that tells you whether you're going to have a good year or a bad year is the weather. I don't know if there's any other, maybe if you're a winter sport professional or something, that weather would have this much influence. But in farming, the biggest factor is the weather. Whether you have a good year, whether you have a bad year, how much money you make, what you actually can produce on your farm. And it's the thing you have absolutely no control over. So you can be the best farmer in the world, as we are, of course, Darren, and we have, you know, done all the things that we thought we had to do to produce food. But if it doesn't rain, you don't produce any food. Yeah. And so you can spend all this time sowing pasture and improving your soil, but if you don't get rain, nothing grows. And you can't change the weather. So it's a very frustrating thing. In other businesses, there's usually levers you can pull to sort of change the circumstance. But here you just look at the sky every day and the chart and you think, until it rains, things are going to be grim. We're going to be feeding cattle every day. We're going to be moving water, pumping water. We're going to be looking at them and saying, you know, not just the cattle, but the people around you and your community. Are you okay? Are you doing all right? And it's also a time because finances get so tight. The cost of everything goes up. The cost of feed and hay and transport goes up. You sell your cattle and you get nothing for them because everyone else is selling their cattle. So there's a terrible financial squeeze. And so people don't want to go to the events. They don't see their neighbours. They don't put on a party they don't go to the hall. We have very few gatherings. And so that impacts enormously on mental health and the isolation. Remembering a lot of farmers live alone.
Yeah. Judy, there's a special tree over in the paddock that's in view from the farm centre. What's going to happen to that soon?
Well, talking about farmer mental health, I think every farmer I know either has themselves or knows someone very well who has had to deal with mental health issues over time. I certainly have. And as I said earlier, one of the reasons I'm doing this social farm is because I know how being part of nature and, you know, can provide a healing and a better mental space to be in. But I think one of the things about mental health and agriculture and being on a farm is we can be pretty stoic. We can be, you know, it can take us a very long time to actually talk about what's going on. And even now I can see people don't want to say how tough it is. People don't want to say how they're not doing real well because we're supposed to be tough. That's what farming is. You know, we're resilient people. You know, that's what we're famous for. So, you know, letting your guard down and saying, look, I'm really not coping all that well is hard. I read not that long ago about this beautiful project called the Blue Tree Project. And it's only been going a few years Australia-led. It started, you know, with a very sad story in Western Australia of a young man who painted this blue tree, old dead tree for his dad as a bit of a joke, bright blue. And his dad came home one night and said, who painted the tree, you know? And shortly afterwards, the son was no longer with us. And it was because, and his friends got together and sort of said, well, you know, when this happens, how can someone that seems to be coping not be coping? Yeah. You know, and how do we not know? You know, how can we have helped? Why weren't we talking about what was going on with him? He seemed to be a happy guy. He's making a joke about this tree, you know. And so the Blue Tree Project started, and it's now all across Australia. And you'll see these beautiful bright blue trees on farms. And I know there's one down at the Dettering football ground. There's one at the Wodonga Race Club. You know, people are starting to paint these trees bright blue, just saying it's okay to talk about it. It is okay. We all go through it different times. Don't bottle it up. This is a place you can have a conversation about not feeling good. And I want my farm to be a place that people can come and have a conversation about, I'm not doing real well. You know, I came out here, you know, can I have a bit of support? I had someone spend the day today, you know, just saying, I just needed to get somewhere, get away, have a bit of a think, go home happier. So we've got our tree ready. We're going to have a Blue Tree Project, and this beautiful tree will be painted bright blue, and we also hope to create a walkway to this tree. It's out the paddock, and so that people can just walk out to the tree, maybe do a blue handprint, take a picture, take a selfie, I don't know, do a TikTok dance. I don't care what they do, but that the blue tree is a symbol of hope and resilience and the fact that you're in a community that cares.
I looked up last night the meaning of a blue tree, and I read that it's a silent yet unwavering reminder that we don't have to face mental health challenges alone.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I think, a problem shared is a problem halved or whatever, but not sharing your problem, and particularly in rural Australia, has been, a hallmark of being a tough farmer. And you can be a tough farmer and still say you're not doing okay.
Yeah, thanks, Judy. That's well said. Now, this is the fun part. These are the off-the-wall questions.
This is the fun part for you, Darren, not the fun part for me.
I love this
Come
part.
on.
These are just short answers.
You didn't do this when my first one
No,
12
I
months
didn't.
ago.
We've evolved. And you can answer as many as you like.
Okay.
If the farm had a mascot, what would it be?
A mascot. Well, that's a good one. Well, our mascot on our sign is our tree.
The resilience,
The resilience tree. And I suppose in a sense that is the mascot for the farm. It's a particular tree. When you see our logo, it's on the logo, it's on our sign, it's on everything we do, because it's the only tree that I know of that survived the 3 bushfires. So it survived the 39, the 68 and Black Saturday, which most things didn't, other than there's only, the house and one other shed that survived all 3. And this tree would be the ugliest tree. It's got a little limb sticking out that doesn't have, it looks like it's dead. It's got black on the bottom. It's all warped and misshapen. It's covered in mistletoe. Looks like it's going to die tomorrow. It sticks out on the fence such that we've had to fence around it because it's pushing the boundary fence line out. It's got everything wrong with it, but it hangs on in there. And we call it the resilience tree. And I think that's definitely our mascot.
Now, what's your favourite farming tool?
Favourite might not be the right thing, but the one that makes me laugh is every time I pick up the chainsaw, because my mother gave it to me for my 30th birthday.
Did she?
And my mother Mary, she's at other birthdays, she's given me a shovel, a rake, a wheelbarrow. But at 30, she told me she had something really big and expensive for me for my birthday. And I think I was picturing a piece of jewelry, but it was a chainsaw. And I still have the chainsaw and it's been put to great use, but she was very concerned that I didn't have a big enough chainsaw. So that's a beautiful sign of love.
It is. Now, what time of the day do you get your best work done?
Tell the truth or tell you what you want to hear?
No, give us the truth.
Okay, I'm going to tell the truth because I think when I've listened to you interview other people and they always say, first thing in the morning, you can't get up early enough and, get your work done by breakfast. And I don't get much done by breakfast except 1 or maybe 2 coffees. I'm the exception to the rule. I get my best work done in the evenings. And my favourite time of day is sunset.
Yep.
I never miss a sunset. I find it very hard to finish my day's work. I find it, I'm very happy not to start it most mornings, but I never want to go inside in the evening, and particularly in daylight saving where you get those couple of hours from 6 till 9 p.m. where it's cooler and there's all this beautiful colour on the hills and the sky. And you can do anything. You can get so much work done, but everyone's going, where's my dinner? Why aren't you inside? How long are you going to come out? Anyway, that's my favourite time of day. So it's just as well now I don't have others to look after at night because I can stay out there till midnight if I want.
And if the farm had a theme song, what would that be?
Well, there's only one theme song, Darren. And that would be the Essendon Football Club song. I mean, seriously, when you say theme song, what do you automatically think about? I mean, you can't go past that. And it gets played most weekends after whatever round.
Not most weekends.
No, but it gets, so, and I've even got a lovely can opener that plays it. So if they don't sing it, I get to, open the can and play it, push the button.
If you could bottle the feeling of this place, what would it smell or taste like?
The feeling of this place. If you bottled this place, it would taste like bullshit. I think it would smell like bullshit and it would taste like bullshit. Because there's a fair bit of that goes around. And you talked about storytelling, and if my mother's here, there's even more. So I think we could bottle bullshit here pretty well.
Talking about the bulls, if your cattle could talk, what do you think they would say to you?
I hope they would say, thank you for allowing me to be born on your farm, because you love me and you're a good owner. That's what I hope they would say. But usually they don't. They just say, I don't want to go through that gate because I've got perfectly good pasture in here and I'm not going. So, but yeah, I do talk to my cows. And as you know, Darren, because you helped me in the yards not long ago, and I usually work in the stockyards on my own because I know people will think I'm completely crazy the way I talk to the cows and constantly talk to them as they're getting their drench or their vaccination or whatever they're doing. But you worked with me the other day. I had to keep apologising for talking out loud. It was embarrassing.
Well, I approached the yards quietly, and I'm sure there was 2 or 3 other people in the yards that you were talking to. Nah, it was just you.
Yes, yeah, so sometimes I'm better off on my own.
Now, if you had to swap lives with one of the animals for a day, who would you pick?
Oh, one of the dogs, definitely. They're the laziest, most over-pampered creatures on this farm. They achieve very little, except keeping us up at night if there's a stray animal comes in. And apparently there was some deer last night that came down the drive, and they're very good at barking, but they don't perhaps work quite as hard as they should. But definitely Scruff, my youngest dog. I'd be Scruff without a problem. Scruff rules the roost, destroys what she wants. And
gets pampered whenever she wants.
And
she
gets rewarded. Yeah, she needs a bath and a haircut very desperately.
Now, if you could give your 18-year-old self some advice, what would you say?
18 was one of the worst years of my life. I don't know why you picked 18, Darren. So Dad died when I was 17. 18 was my first year on the farm, or full-time on the farm. But I wasn't full-time. I was working because it was a drought, and I was working a whole lot of part-time jobs, in the pub and waitressing and different things. And life was pretty awful. And if I could have told that person that here I would be 42 years later doing the thing I really loved on the farm, being able to do the things on the farm that I only dreamt about at 18, where we had no money, no capacity to do anything but survive, and now we're thriving. So I'd love to be able to tell that 18-year-old person it's okay, it's going to be okay, because I don't think she ever really thought that it would.
If you could have a coffee or a sneaky cold drink with somebody, who would you choose? And these people could be dead or alive.
Well, I'm glad you said they could be dead or alive, because then it makes it very easy. It would be my dad, of course. Every day on the farm, I talk to Dad. Dad's been gone, I said, since I was 17. I think the whole thing I do now is still hoping that he would be happy with it. I think maybe we all spend our lives trying to make our parents happy with the choices we've made. But Dad missed seeing this farm do what it's done. Dad worked off farm all his life and put the money into the farm. He was getting up for his off farm work the day he dropped dead at 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. And at that point, he was paying off another farm. We were all still at school. He was just working so hard to make this farm what he'd been born here. And he had that same ethos. I need to leave the farm better than I found it. But he didn't quite live to see that. So I'd love to be sitting down with him saying, is it okay what I've done? Are you happy? That would be great. And yeah, so I just have to talk to the spirits now, but no competition in that one. It would be Dad.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he would be extremely proud of you. If he could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
Kindness.
Yeah.
Kindness is a very easy one.
Yeah.
I just think kindness is everything. I'm not sure you ever see it that simply when you're young, but I do now. If we were all kind, life would be so good.
Now, I know the answer to this next one, Judy, but I want to hear it again. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Well, I'd love to shock you, but I can't, because I live where I want to be, and I live in the best place in the world. Here I am, and as we're finishing this interview, Darren, there's rain on the roof. Can you hear it?
That's beautiful.
It's the first drops we've had in so long. So the spirits are listening to me, and I think it's stopping. Oh dear. But if I could live here and there'd be rain on the roof, life's pretty perfect.
Well, thank you, Judy, for your time again today and for being my first guest. And now
And your
52
last
episodes.
one now, Darren.
52 episodes later, you're my next one. So thanks so much for the update. Thanks for everything you're doing. You're making the world a better place, and thanks for your time.
Well, thanks for the part you play in the Farm Mudgegonga, Darren. We're just so lucky, and we're so lucky the way you're sharing this story with so many others.
My pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to this heartfelt conversation with Judy Brewer. Her kindness, care and unwavering commitment to others are at the heart of everything she's building at the Farm Mudgegonga. She's making a real difference, not just on the land, but in people's lives. Thank you, Judy. Don't forget to follow us on your favourite podcast app and on social media. In the meantime, keep your hands dirty and your spirits high.